Morning!
Madman!
Welcome to the India Explained podcast, recorded in London and San Francisco. One take, unscripted, no rehearsal. Hey Bunty, welcome again to the show. What's up, man?
Everything's fine. I think one of the things that I have focused on this time is this Christmas. I got a gift from my in laws, which was a nice bit of UD toilet.
Oh, nice.
Uh, and generally, I am loath to use kind of strong perfumes and scents every day. I use kind of the general hygiene products. But since the beginning of the year, I've been using this kind of lavender, velvet. I don't know the exact scent,
Hmm,
but all I can say it smells nice. So
very nice.
um, that is something that is taken up. I'm sitting in front of the desk which has that bottle.
Oh,
So no,
excellent.
everything's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well,
How are things with you?
yeah, very good. Yeah, speaking of that, I stopped using cologne some years ago because of various sort of allergies and, some kind of mild asthma stuff. But I remember in India, there used to be this one, Old Spice was kind of the default, and then Brute. Brute used to be
Yeah.
greatly sought after. But when I came to America, I was very disheartened to see that Brute was like Walmart level, cologne. Because in my mind, so I basically realized that, sometimes some relative would come from abroad, or, father's parents' friend who lives abroad or is
Yeah.
in shipping industry, that beta, this is brute for you. And, I'm thinking that this is perfume of King Henry the 18th. But you actually realize a low level one, like it is equivalent of Wrangler jeans. Like in India, Wrangler and Levi's were equivalent, but in America, you realize that Levi's is cutting edge, 501, iconic, and Wrangler is sort of bottom of the barrel. But speaking of shampoo, scent, talcum powder, there's this story you sent me a link to, which is sort of alarming and upsetting in all kinds of ways. That the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, Adityanath, Yogi Adityanath, he was going to see some, Dalits, the Mushars of Mainpur Court area. And the Mushars are, the name itself suggests that they're a community that's so marginalized that the only occupation available to them traditionally has been catching rats. And the officials, they made them bathe, apply talcum powder and some kind of scent, as they put it, perfume, just so that, Yogi would not get a quote unquote stinking feeling. That was from another article. And there's been some, kerfuffle about it. Now, again, is it something that Yogi demanded? Is it something the officials did? It's almost irrelevant. It just speaks to a whole series of very troubling assumptions about actual hygiene as well as moral hygiene, and the idea that some communities are fundamentally seen as unclean, which is completely consistent with the claims of the caste system.
This is an interesting article for me. I picked it up and I was kind of really taken aback that in this day and age, in a functioning democracy, which we still are, you can go up to a section of the electorate and ask them to, dress differently or uh, change their personal hygiene routines. Now, I do not know enough about this community to say whether is are the powers that be implying that body odor or hygiene issues sit in specific points of the caste spectrum. I don't think so, and therefore, I just think it's very dehumanizing and demeaning to suggest to a group of people that you need to freshen up and clean up because it's universal that your standards are. It's a universal given that your standards, hygiene standards, are low, and I'm interested in the person who decided and we are not saying it's going to be the chief minister. We're not saying it's somebody with the chief minister's office. It could have been some low-level bureaucrat in the region who said that I need to look good, and as part of repairing the roads, which have also happened, and painting the walls and cleaning the drains, which have happened for the visit. Part of the whole theater was ensuring that the people are dressed in fresh clothes. I know that happens in other parts of India where politicians go to do a field visit and they are greeted by people dressed in new clothes.
Hmm.
But this goes a step further, where saying that I will give you products to kind of take a bath and freshen up. There are so many odd assumptions here. I honestly don't know what to make of it, other than the fact that it's a really stupid way of requesting. Whoever made that request, it dehumanizes people.
Yeah.
But if I have to flip it, in every story, what we try and see both sides. Maybe there is a group of people who got a basket of goodies which they wouldn't have bought themselves. They didn't feel a need to. I don't even know whether that's a good thing. But free shampoo, free soap, free hair oil, free cosmetic products has been dispensed in the course of a chief minister's visit, and it sounds really odd, but that's what has happened.
Right. Well, yes, I mean, so there's all kinds of thoughts that come to mind. First, that this is, I think, uh, uh, this is a larger trend of seeing a community in very essentialist terms, right? And any community that's a minority, especially a minority that's oppressed, they often tend to be described as unclean, right? And the description of them or the understanding of them as physically unclean also implies a kind of moral or spiritual lack of cleanliness, right? It's exactly what you
Correct.
say, a kind of
Correct.
dehumanization, and that
Correct.
dehumanization is precisely what enables violence.
Yeah.
And so, African Americans, one of the stereotypes about them was that they were unclean, right? In
Right.
Pakistan, Hindus are considered unclean
Correct.
because Hindus are at the bottom of the barrel. Very often they're, garbage pickers and they work in menial jobs. But, I've grown up, when I grew up, I heard these kind of assumptions all the time. Like I heard people say, I remember someone using a phrase, acquaintance's mother, Jama Masjid ke gande Musalman, that
Right.
there are
Right.
some Muslims who are, maybe upper caste and claim descent from the Mughals, but the average Indian Muslim is a Jama Masjid ka ganda Musalman. Or I've heard people say Sardar bade gande hote hain, right? And
Yeah.
you have similar bizarre assumptions about people's tastes and habits also. Like I had a classmate called Ajay Gupta who would just come up with like weird remarks. This is in Calcutta that he said only Biharis and Muslims go to the zoo. Now, what the logic I this is like when I was in class 8, so I think I was whatever, like 12, 13 years old now. So it's been like 30 plus years, but just the absurdity of that remark stuck with me. So there's that. But the other point of it to do with, like, element of violence is symbol this is an act of symbolic violence which enables actual violence. That's very disturbing. And yes, what will happen is that these are poor people, so they will accept gifts that you give them, right? They are not, I'm not patronizing them and saying that they are not smart, but they don't have the framework or the wherewithal or just the discursive tools, so to speak, to, be able to like critique this. And why should they? I mean, this is a community that's living for, on the edge of survival, and they will take whatever they get. So in that sense, the defense that the officials will come up with is, well, they took it very happily. Why are you complaining, and so on. But I think it's the whole series of assumptions around it that's very sort of troublesome. And to me, that I can think of another equivalent that, in some ways, it's not very different from the British, some American millionaire giving some idiot Nawab or Raja a radio, and that guy gives his priceless jade jewelry, which then winds up in the hands of some American person.
Yeah, I think just because you've introduced the other countries into this, falling back on your cleanliness remark, that how cleanliness or personal hygiene uh, is closely related to socioeconomics, and then in certain countries it kind of is in caste and power position. I visited Japan last year. We are going to Japan this year. I think if kind of cleanliness is a measure of social pecking order or kind of discrimination, the Japanese people, they're exceptionally polite, but they're one of the most racist and bigoted people, not in the color sense,
Right, right.
uh, but simply because they feel the rest of the world has an appalling sense of hygiene. So it's very interesting how this whole framework of who is clean and unclean
Yeah.
is such a relative framework, because some Brahmin in UP is thinking he's very above it all. If you
Hmm.
line him up against somebody from Switzerland, he'll think that this guy is borderline zoo visitor.
Right,
And
right.
then if you line up that guy from Switzerland to next to an average Japanese salaryman, he'll think that this guy's an animal.
Right.
So all of this, so the irony of all of this is that it's all relative, and
Correct.
everybody's comparing in their little buckets, and the comparison is frankly not true. I'd be very curious to see what brands of products were dispensed, whether they were herbal Ayurvedic products, as is the fashion in that part of the world now,
Right.
or were they more mainstream Hindustan lever products.
Right. Right.
That would be an interesting thing. That some guy decided that इनको shampoo दिया जाए,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the next question would be, sir, कौन सा shampoo?
Yeah. My bet is the soap is probably Lifebuoy or Hammam.
Right?
So, and the problem is some of those soaps, like your hand actually smells worse after you.
Lifebuoy, Lifebuoy was all the rage through the 80s. It's a very masculine bar of soap.
Yeah.
And I used Lifebuoy, and I realized that there's a reason there. It was like one step up from industrial soap,
Yeah.
and the cosmetic values were very little. But
Yeah.
anyway, we've spoken a fair bit about this,
Yeah.
so I think we should wrap this up, Rohit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an excellent point. I mean, I just, reminded this point about like relative measures is very good. And I think that purity obsessed Hindus, caste Hindus would do very well to like keep that in mind. So yeah, it's great. All right, Bunty. So let's wrap this up and yeah, take care, man. We'll catch up again very soon.
Chalo, take care. Bye
Bye.
bye.